Right now, attorney Anahita Sedaghatfar to talk more about today. Thank you for being here. First question is kind of a macro question, and that is, we've been hearing it's a watershed moment.
Yes.
How colossal is this day? You've
It's
represented
big.
some 100
Yes.
clients.
A lot of
sexual harassment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today was really monumental, not just for Constance, not just for the multiple other women that accused Cosby of sexual assault, but really for all victims of sexual assault, because I think the jury sent a loud message that no longer is it okay to victim blame, no longer is it okay to make a victim feel scared to come forward, especially if the perpetrator is someone who's in a power position, who has money. And so I think that we've really entered a new era, and I'm so happy about that.
On that line of questioning, do you think that this will push the DA either in LA or in New York to file charges against perhaps Kevin Spacey or Harvey Weinstein? We've been hearing about these accusations for a long time now.
Yeah, the statute of limitations, I think, will be an issue in those cases. We know in this case, Andrea Constand, this was the only case against Cosby that the statute had not expired. And remember, the DA filed the case a day before the statute of limitations expired. So yes, it's going to be possibly a good precedent, but the statute of limitations is something that has to be contended with. And there are some moves to have that changed in Los Angeles and California.
Bill Cosby's first trial ended in a hung jury. We all know that. And after that happened, we see this tidal wave in Me Too. So I guess that begs the question. The judge said the jury should not consider Me Too as they're considering this case, but how do they not consider that?
Yeah, the jury can only consider the facts and evidence presented to them in that courtroom when they're deliberating. But I think it would be sort of disingenuous to say that the Me Too movement did not have at least some impact on one or maybe a few of those jurors. I mean, this has been about 4 to 5 months of just tons of media coverage. The judge instructed those jurors, but again, it's hard to imagine that they did not contemplate that.
We hear a lot about celebrity justice, but do you think in this case that the fact that he was a celebrity, Mr. Cosby, that it actually hurt him?
I think in this case it might have hurt him. So first off, we'll say celebrities have the money to hire the best defense attorneys. He had Tom Mesereau. You can't get any better than that. He had the best experts. He had the money to post bail. But I think you would have to, like you said, be living under a rock to not have heard about this case in the media. And to a certain extent, if Bill Cosby was not the celebrity he was, you have to ask, would he have been charged? The DA heard this case 20 years ago and said, look, there's not enough evidence to move forward. Now the new DA came into power and he filed charges. So you have to ask, was his celebrity part of the reason why the DA decided to file this case?
That's really interesting. And then carrying that point a bit further, I found it odd, and maybe it was because of his celebrity, maybe not, that Bill Cosby wasn't immediately remanded and taken into custody. Why was he allowed to go free? Because I have to think if it was someone else, they would have said, you're...
That was shocking. And the prosecutor immediately said, Your Honor, let's remand him, let's send him to jail, we have a conviction. His defense attorneys argued, look, he's shown up to every single court date for the past 2 years. He's not a flight risk. He's Bill Cosby. He's not going anywhere. The judge agreed with the defense, and now he's released. He can go home.
But before all that happened, there were some histrionics in the courtroom where Cosby, who's been said to have been very quiet and respectful in the proceedings, shouted loudly and used an expletive at the deputy DA.
Not good. Not good optics for him. But you know what? He's frustrated. He's 80 years old. We hear he's not in great health. I don't think he anticipated a guilty verdict here. He seemed very confident. But again, this was sort of a very different trial than the first trial. The first trial, there was no Me Too movement. There weren't 5 alleged victims that got to testify. So I think he might have suspected that he was going to get acquitted, and that was an outburst that I think is going to be held against him. And during the sentencing phase, I think he needs to be very careful not to engage in that type of behavior.
Let's talk more about that. Getting and now having this finding of guilt is one thing.
Yes.
Now the sentencing phase.
Yes.
Can you talk just high level?
Yes.
What can you expect?
There's going to be
here?
a whole new trial, sort of. So his attorneys will present some mitigating factors to say to the judge, look, he's 80 years old, he's not in great health, he has no record, and then the prosecution is going to say, these are 3 felonies, very serious felonies, and it's up to the judge to decide how much time he's going to get.
Cosby, of course, has a great deal of money and influence. He had an expert there along on this trial who is an appeal specialist.
Yes.
So what do you see coming down the road for him trying to get a new trial and perhaps have a better result?
He is going to appeal right away. As we heard Tom Mesereau say, this is not over. And I can tell you one of the great grounds he has for appeal is the fact that the judge did allow in this trial 5 alleged victims to testify. His attorneys will argue on appeal that is far more prejudicial than probative. That should not have been allowed. This case was about Andrea Constand and only Andrea Constand. So that's a good argument on appeal.
You know, as I was watching this earlier today, and I was watching Gloria Allred at the podium, there were tears flowing from, there were other victims that were standing up there with her, and she said that, my big takeaway, said, women were finally believed. And I said to myself out loud in 2018, women were finally
That's
believed.
right. You're going up against a celebrity, a millionaire, America's dad. And I think the jury's message was, look, no more. Don't be afraid to come forward. Speak your truth. You will be believed. You will be vindicated. And I think that's going to resonate throughout the entire country, not just against celebrities, but all abusers of women in all facets of life.
And all of these victims, they took a lot of slings and arrows. They did.
Absolutely, they did. They were attacked. We saw Tom Mesereau. He really cross-examined. He did try to blame the victims, all of them that testified. It backfired. You can no longer take that tactic in these cases. That's not acceptable. And the jurors said we're not buying that anymore.
All right, Anahita, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
This afternoon.
Thank you.